Yo, what up everybody, it's Theo Stewart, and today I am going to talk about what I expect to read when I read books. It might seem kind of odd, especially since I write fantasy and I like reading fantasy or sci-fi or stuff like that, but I prefer to have realism in my books. If I don't get a sense of realism, I'm pretty well turned off. And this does eliminate some fantasy and some sci-fis, but not all of them. A lot of people think, well, if it's realism, then why are you reading fantasy or sci-fi that's not realistic, that's made up stuff? That's not what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about realism, I want stuff that is actually plausible to happen. I want characters that actually behave like characters would. I don't want people who are, goody two-shoes all the time. I don't want people who are bad and just hateful all the time. If you have one character or something, I know I touched on this a couple videos back about, villains just being bad just because. If it's like one villain or two or whatever, here and there, that's okay. But if every single villain's like that, that's not very plausible. Some of them will have, a good reasoning behind their madness in a sense. I want characters that actually act how they act. You don't always have to have a side character that 100% of the time supports the main character. You can have them have conflict. You can have them be like, I usually agree with you, but today, no, not on that. You can have these little bouts of stuff. I want things centered in reality, even though it might not actually be in reality. It could be future. It could be in a fantasy world. It could be in outer space. I don't care. But I want realistic principles implied. If you throw an object up in the air, it's going to come down, type of grounded in reality, unless you're in outer space, of course. But I don't want all these random crazy ideas that the author's like, yeah, this would be cool or whatever, and it makes no sense. If you can explain it and ground it in reality to a degree, that I can understand, that's one thing. But just to do it and not really explain it or go into details of why, then no. There's a bunch of other things, just how people and characters think, how they interact, different stuff like that. I want it grounded in reality. And it's just plain and simple. I would ask if you hate me yet. I feel like most people would probably agree. Which, oddly enough, a lot of y'all seem to agree with most of these videos. But anyways, that's just kind of my viewpoint. If something's not centered in reality, if it's not realistic to me, I don't like it, and you can hate me for that.